Hello, this is Elena Ruiz de la Torre. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this very important conference. Thanks a lot and congratulations for this initiative. I'm going to share my screen with you to share the presentation. Oh, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. That's not what I want. That's what I need. That's what I need, and that's what I need. Okay. So first of all, I would like to introduce you what EMHA is. EMHA is an umbrella group formed by 34 patient organizations in Europe and representing more than 50 million people. For the last 10 years, we have been trying to get together to become stronger and bigger and to become the voice of the patients in Europe. Why it is important to belong to a patient organization? It would be your question. And that's something I want to emphasize in this presentation to you. Well, we need you all. We need you all to change the migrant word. The migrant word is a very weak word. Nobody understands migraine. I'm pretty sure you all know that migraine is considered like just a headache, a little bit stronger in many of the countries. I would say in all of the ones I've been around. And we need to change this perception. What happens if you become a part of a member of a patient organization? For the association, what do they do? They empower the patients. They raise awareness. They create a more friendly world, including the workspace, the social life, and the family life. And they represent the voice of the patients to inform about the real burden of migraine in front of media, policymakers, etc. And they try to get respect from the society. You all very well know that migraine is not considered at all. And it's considered like a silly, not important disease that it's not worthy to work for. The ones who suffer it with the patients, we know how important it is to change this idea that the society in general has and to fight for it. If you are a patient and you become a member of a patient organization, you become empowered and you get reliable information. Again, we know how many information we get from so many different sources, from social media and from others. And at the end, we need only reliable information that comes from the patient organization. We all know with the patient organization, we work with a specialist, with a neurologist, with science, reliable science, and we know what to say. And we don't say, we fight for everything that doesn't need to be said. How many people know the solution and the miracle to treat migraine? And we all know that that doesn't exist yet. We will get it, but it doesn't exist yet. You become better educated to manage your life. If you get more information, you get more education. And but also, and this is very important, you can help others with your best practices and your self-management successes. You can help others to manage their condition. And why is this important? Because we need to create a migraine community. We need to bring people together to the migraine movement. I'm going to talk to you about this in a little while. We have created the migraine movement possible in worldwide, but at least in Europe, to create a strong group of patients with the same messages and the same calls and the same requests for things that we want to change. We need to be aligned in Europe, and we need to be aligned worldwide. We are trying to create this worldwide movement too, but first of all, we need to be aligned in Europe. We need, in a world where we have those global communications, in which what I say here in the morning, it's going to be read by Latin America in the afternoon and probably in Australia the next morning, we need to have the same messages. We need to have a global message to all, to the ones who listen to us. We need to know what to say. We need to take decisions on what do we want, what it's important for us and what it isn't. Let's say I have written here some examples of unified messages that we should have to have. For instance, do we want that others speak about us, saying disability or temporary disability? Because we are not completely disabled. We are temporarily disabled when we have the attack, when we have the crisis, but not always. We are completely capable the rest of our life. We are normal people. We can do everything, except that we need some help. We need some flexibility. We need a lot of understanding around us. But if we have a good environment and a good understanding, we can move mountains. The days that we don't have an attack, we can move mountains. The day that we have an attack, we stop. We don't exist anymore for a while until we recover. Do we want to be called patient or affected person or migrainer? I don't think people with migraine feel as a patient. We do feel as a migraine, I would say, or affected person. But I don't want that anyone says that I am called a patient forever, because I don't think even myself that I suffer migraine. I am very, very severe. And even myself, I don't consider myself as a patient always, every single minute of my day. I only consider patient, disabled, and everything during the attacks. Is this a disease, a condition, a disorder? That's something that the science needs to tell us. But again, how many people do you know that have migraine, suffer migraine, and they don't want even to say it? We try to hide it, all of us. We don't want to say that we have migraine. We are scared of the world. We are scared of the outside. We are scared of our employment. We are scared that anyone can blame us and say that, oh, if you have migraine, first of all, they don't understand what's that. If we don't understand it, imagine them. They don't understand whether this is a mental, neurological, what is wrong in our brain, what happens that from time to time we get those attacks and we disappear for 24, 48 hours. They don't know it. And at the end, they only know that we are going to miss some days of work and we are going to be sick for some days. So at the end, they are going to try to find people who is completely healthy. But we are healthy. I really think we are healthy. It's only that we have those attacks, those migraine attacks. And we need to prevent them and become the less affected possible with a very good control from our specialists and our doctors. We also need to exchange our best practices. In one country and in another, we have very good, very good activities, very good initiatives that we need to exchange with others, with our colleagues, with our peers, with our mates in this way of fighting for migraine. I would say fighting, but there are very good activities and proposals and projects in many countries that we can learn in others to how to do them and put them in practice. And we exchange, that's what I was saying, supporting national campaigns, and we also get this support from other countries. Nowadays, again, with social media, everything has become less clustered and it's bigger and more open, and we need to become supportive one to each other. And of course, and why not, to exchange scientific information. We all have extraordinary and excellent practitioners in our countries, specialized in migraine, who get to discover new discoveries, new advances on treating migraine, and we can exchange those when they are published from one country to another. This is the EMHA 2 years ago when we organized the first Migraine and Headache International Patient Association in Amsterdam. I can show you here that there were people from Mexico, from Polonia, from the Netherlands, from Germany, from everywhere around the world, Serbia, France, everywhere, Australia. I can tell you that there were people from everywhere, and there were very, very good specialists there. We have Dr. David Dodit here. There was Professor Peter Gosby with us too, and there was Professor Lars Edvinsson with us that day too. And it was a great day. Those days are extraordinary. We exchange our problems, our situation, but we also exchange our solutions and our capacity building, and we get informed, and they are really good. That means that we are becoming bigger little by little, and we needed Czech Republic. We didn't have Czech Republic. That's why I want to congratulate you for creating this patient organization in your country, which is going to become very important too. What is the burden of working with migraine? And I say working because I have been, as you know, I have been working in this burden a lot. And last year I created a survey called Migraine at Work. I'm going to give you just 3 examples, 3 results of what it came out of that survey, which was run in 8 countries in Europe, and we got 1,800 answers, and they all were very similar in all countries. There is not much difference between one country and another, but let's see what happens and what the patients say, or what the affected people say. 44.54 declare to have had problems to renew their contracts due to migraine. That's a lot. That's nearly 50% cannot renew their contract because of their migraine. 43% said they have had problems accessing to a job due to their migraine. That's again a lot. 43% of people that cannot get to a job because of their migraine. And 32.88 have received a warning sanction for suffering migraine at work, because nobody understands them, because their employers don't understand them, because they just call one day to say that they cannot go to work, and that's not understood. That's not properly understood. Those results are completely unacceptable. That cannot be kept like this in time. We need to make society understand what migraine is. But that's my point. How is to live with migraine? What happens when, and if you are listening to me and you are a migrainer, you know that you have this feeling like I do. It's really difficult to live with migraine. We are fighters. You are fighters. You are resilient. You are extremely responsible. You are very committed. You are very perfectionist. We know that we may have an attack tomorrow, so we don't leave anything for tomorrow. Anything that we need to do today, it's going to be done today, as much as possible. We try to do our best. We fight, and if we have an attack, we try to recover that time immediately after. We try to run our home, keep our family, do the shopping, go to work, everything, get children, everything. We have the same. I always say that I was born exactly the same than anyone else. I went to school. I had all my studies like anyone else. I did my homework. I went to university. I studied my career, everything the same than others. I got a job. Then I started to work, everything the same. But nobody knew that I was having migraine and migraine attacks from time to time. And nobody cared about that. We live a completely normal life. And we have a huge burden on our personalities, on our being, and no help from society. Nobody is going to help us. Nobody helps us yet. We are trying to improve in this situation at this moment. That's the work that we are doing at EMHA. But who are others to doubt us? Who are others to think that we are weak people, or we are not capable enough, or we are not strong enough. Who are they to think about us or to think that because we have migraine, we may not be capable to get a job? I think we need to become stronger in that situation, and we need to speak, and we need to start talking about the real truth of migraine. And you need to become empowered, and you need to become strong, because you are a superhero. Migraine sufferers are superheroes. We do everything the same than the others, and we keep on doing it, and we don't mind if they understand us or not. This is our way of living, and we don't want to stop living in this way. That's why we have created this campaign, the migraine movement. I'm going to put it in 1 minute.
You close your eyes when you feel it's coming. You can't move. You don't want to move, but the world keeps on turning. And you feel you are the only one who knows how hard it is to keep up. But that's not the case. We are thousands, hundreds of thousands. We are millions, and nothing can stop so many of us. To all of those who do not want to stop, to all of those who want to keep moving forward with their lives, with their partners, work or family, to all of those who do not want to simply close their eyes and want to face the problem. To all of those who want to leave pain behind and search, no, even better, find solutions, comprehension and support. We have launched the Migraine Movement, a movement from and to all of us who suffer migraine, a movement to activate society, to face migraine.
I would encourage you to go inside this link and register yourself there. This is just you register there, and that's it. You belong to this movement. We need to be a lot. And we all want to move forward, and we all want to face this problem, as it is said, living in the best way. Let's change the migraine world. Let's change the wrong perception of this condition. This condition is considered wrongly by others. But become an advocate. Start talking about it. You have to. Who is going to fight for us if it is not us? Other diseases, they are going to fight for their diseases. You need to fight for your disease, and we need to fight it all together. Let's inform and educate the world all together. Be active, speak about it. If you have migraine, you need to go to talk to your employer and tell him, trust me, I will do my job. I will do what I am committed to do. We are very responsible. Ask them to trust you, to give you the opportunity, and you know that you will do it. Let's move the disease from being undertreated, underdiagnosed, neglected, and disregarded to a respected and understood position. Keep mobilized in your country. You are the ones who need to mobilize this and to get mobilized. I know it's very hard because apart from our migraine, our pain and everything, we need to fight for it. But everything that we do at this moment, it will be done for the next generation. And we need to live a better life to the next generation. What we have done, it will be already done, and they deserve it. And always remember that you are extraordinary people and that we can do much more all together. Thank you very much. And I hope to visit you soon and to be able to meet you face to face in person. Thank you.
Jste zmiňovala, nebo jste prosila, aby se lidé zapojili do hnutí pro migrénu.
You have mentioned in your presentation that people with migraine should participate in the international migraine movement.
Ale asi by se měli také zapojit do pacientské iniciativy přímo v Čechách, tedy do hnutí iniciativy Migréna-help.
Should they also participate in the Czech patient organization Migréna-help?
Je to tak?
Is it so? What do you think?
Well, thank you very much for this question.
Děkuji za tuto otázku.
I really think that Czech people with migraine need to be registered and included at the Czech Republic Patient Organization?
Myslím si, že lidé v České republice, kteří trpí migrénou, by se měli registrovat ve vaší české pacientské organizaci.
A patient organization, it's all the patients. It's not only an organism or an association, it's the community of patients in one country.
Není to jenom nějaká pacientská organizace, ale je to vlastně jako společenství a komunita těch lidí, kteří trpí stejnými problémy v té dané zemi.
So I encourage all the Czech people with migraine to become member of the Czech Migréna-help and make it strong and a big voice, because the patient organization belongs to all of them.
Takže bych chtěla všechny povzbudit, aby se stali členy pacientské organizace Migréna-help, aby tato organizace byla velká, rozrůstala se, protože je to organizace nás všech, patří všem, kteří ji potřebují.
And afterwards, once they are, or at the same time, they can become members of the migrant movement, because the migrant movement, it's a global, it's all the world. And we want to include there a big voice of patients and a big representation of patients when we talk with policymakers or the society in general.
A současně se mohou stát členy toho mezinárodního hnutí Migraine Movement, protože toto hnutí se snaží měnit legislativu celosvětově.
Our disease makes us invisible. We are invisible. Nobody sees us. And this is the way to show us to the world.
Naše nemoc vlastně nás činí neviditelnými a toto je způsob, jak se zviditelnit světu skrze pacientské organizace nebo to hnutí.
Děkuji. Další otázka. Vy sama trpíte migrénou, zmiňovala jste, že máte její vážnou formu. Jak zvládáte vaši práci?
You have mentioned that you suffer with serious form of migraine. How do you manage your work and how long have you been having migraine?
I have migraine since I was 12 years old, and I am 60 years old. Wow. And I have been very severe, I have been chronified, I have been episodic, I have gone through all the type of possibilities of suffering migraine.
Mám migrénu od 12 let, teď je mi 60 a prošla jsem si všechny ty fáze od epizodických záchvatů až po chronickou fázi migrény, takže znám i jako těžkou fázi migrény.
But I am very, very, very committed to improve the world. And I am very committed to improve the migrant world.
A opravdu mi jde o to hodně, aby se změnil ten svět migrény, aby to bylo lepší pro pacienty.
It's very difficult to do this job with migraine, and sometimes I am not well. But I know also that I may inherit this disease to my grandchildren, and I don't want to leave them this inheritance. I want to improve the life of my next generations and your next generations.
A někdy je to opravdu těžké s migrénou pracovat, někdy se opravdu necítím dobře, ale myslím na ty příští generace, pro které bych chtěla, aby to bylo jednodušší, ten život s migrénou. A vám určitě o ně jde taky.
But I have been with a migraine attack in mostly all the hotels in Europe.
Ale měla jsem nějaký migrénózní atak skoro ve většině hotelů v Evropě.
But migraine will not be able to kill me. I will kill my migraine, and I do all my best to improve and to help patients with migraine.
Ale migréna sice se mě možná snaží zabít, ale ona mě nezabije a jednoho dne já zabiju migrénu. Ale určitě se snažím velice o to zlepšit ten svět s migrénou pro lidi, kteří ji trpí.
I try to avoid as much as possible all my triggers. I try to behave. I don't drink. I don't eat so many things. I go to bed at the same time. I wake up at the same time. I try to have a very tidy life. And I move. I do a little bit of sport. I take magnesium. I'm in contact with the neurologist. And like this, I try to live in the best way.
Snažím se samozřejmě jako prevenci dělat to všechno, co asi taky znáte, omezovat jakékoliv spouštěče, takže nepiju alkohol, nejím některá jídla, chodím pravidelně spát ve stejnou dobu, cvičím nebo sportuju a pravidelně navštěvuji neurologa.
Chci se zeptat, tady je od jednoho diváka dotaz. Dobrý den, děkujeme za to, co děláte. Co vám nejvíce pomáhá při záchvatech?
There is one question here. What helps you the most for your attacks? And thank you very much for everything you are doing.
Thank you very much to you. And what helps me most is to prevent them. I need to do as much as possible to prevent them. I work a lot on prevention. I am really in contact nowadays. I have the new CGRP therapy. I am taking it. Otherwise, it's true that sometimes it's very difficult. But really, you need to know yourself. You need to know whether if your attacks come because of some foods, you avoid them. I don't take any dairy. I don't take any fried things. I do a very, very healthy life. I don't do very aggressive sport. I only do a little bit of sport, but not aggressive. Nothing that is very aggressive.
To nejdůležitější je pro mě prevence, předcházení těm atakům. Takže vynechávám mléčné výrobky, které jsou pro mě spouštěčem, smažená jídla, snažím se jíst zdravě, nedělám žádný agresivní sport, jenom nějaké jemné sportování, nenáročné. A mám taky léčbu a to jsem nerozuměla přesně, jestli to je ta biologická léčba, nějaká forma biologické léčby. Asi nějaké to novější.
And very, very, very important is to be in contact with your neurologist, with a specialist, not any neurologist. You need to find the best neurologist, the best expert on migraine and headaches. And if you are not happy with the doctor you are, change, go to look for another one. There are exceptional experts on migraine, and you need to get in contact with them and follow their instructions. But don't self-medicate yourself. Never self-medicate yourself. That can take you to a worse situation.
A je velice důležité mít dobrého, kvalifikovaného lékaře, který o vás pečuje, neurologa, specialistu. Pokud nejste spokojeni se svým lékařem, tak určitě vyhledejte někoho lepšího. Opravdu, kdo je odborník na migrénu, kdo je specialista. A nikdy se nesnažte sami užívat nějaké léky, protože si to můžete ještě zhoršit, tu migrénu.
My vám mnohokrát děkujeme za všechno, co děláte. Bohužel čas na dotazy už vypršel, takže my přejeme krásný večer a tímto se s vámi loučíme.
Thank you very much for everything. Our time ran out, and so goodbye and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your translation. Thanks and see you soon. I hope. See you soon.
Doufám, že vás brzy uvidím.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.